You know what's interesting? The most powerful people in the room are rarely the ones doing all the talking. They're the ones who listen, who observe, who focus. They speak when necessary, and when they do, people pay attention. I want to tell you something that changed my life years ago. I noticed that the most successful people I met had this remarkable ability to cut through the noise. They didn't waste time with unnecessary words. They didn't fill the air with empty promises or pointless stories. They focused, and that focus gave their words weight. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever noticed how a magnifying glass works? It takes sunlight, which on its own feels pleasant, but not particularly powerful, and it concentrates it, focuses it to a point where it becomes intense enough to start a fire. That's what happens when you focus your mind, your energy, and yes, even your words. They become powerful enough to ignite change. Most people scatter their energy like a flashlight beam, illuminating many things but changing nothing. But when you focus like a laser beam, you can cut through steel. When you focus your communication, you can cut through confusion, through distraction, through resistance. I learned this lesson the hard way. For years, I talked too much and accomplished too little. I was busy, but I wasn't productive. I was active, but I wasn't effective. And the more I talked, the less people listened. You see, there's an inverse relationship between quantity and quality when it comes to communication. The more you say, the less people remember. Let me share something with you. When I was starting out in business, I had a mentor who would sit in meetings and say almost nothing for an hour. He'd just listen, take notes, observe. Everyone else would be talking, arguing, trying to impress each other. Then, in the final minutes, he would speak, just a few sentences, and those sentences would solve the problem everyone had been talking in circles about. One day I asked him, "How do you do that? How do you know exactly what to say?" He smiled and said, "I don't speak until I have something worth saying. And I don't know what's worth saying until I understand the situation completely." That was $1 million lesson right there. Most people use words to figure out what they think. Successful people think first, then use words to communicate what they've already figured out. Big difference. Now here's something you can use starting today. Before you speak, ask yourself these 3 questions. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If you can't answer yes to at least 2 of these questions, you know, I've studied success for decades now. I've looked at what makes some people rise to extraordinary achievement while others remain stuck in mediocrity. And one of the clearest patterns I've seen is this ability to focus, to eliminate the unnecessary and concentrate on what matters most. There's a principle in economics called the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. It says that roughly 80 of effects come from 20 of causes. I found this applies to communication too. About 80 of your results will come from 20 of your conversations. About 80 of your progress will come from 20 of your words. The question is, do you know which 20 matters most? Most people don't. They treat all communication as equally important. They give the same energy to office gossip as they do to conversations about their most important goals. They spend as much time complaining about problems as they do discussing solutions. Successful people are different. They're ruthlessly selective about where they put their communicative energy. They understand that words are like currency. You only have so many to spend each day. Spend them wisely on things that will give you a return. I remember talking to a highly successful CEO once. I asked him how he managed to run such a large organization effectively. He told me, "I only do 3 things. I set the vision clearly. I find the right people." That's it. He focused his communication on just those 3 areas, and it allowed him to lead thousands of people effectively. Focus multiplies your results because it concentrates your energy. When you try to communicate everything, you effectively communicate nothing. But when you focus on communicating just what matters most, your impact increases exponentially. Think about water for a moment. When water is spread out Like in a lake, it's calm and has little power. But when that same water is channeled through a narrow opening like in a fire hose, it becomes powerful enough to knock someone over. Your words work the same way. Spread them out too widely, and they lose their power. Focus them narrowly on what matters most, and they can change lives. I want to challenge you to try something. For the next week, cut your words in half. Before every conversation, every meeting, every phone call, ask yourself, what's the one thing I really need to communicate here? Then focus on that one thing. You'll be amazed at how much more effective you become. You know what's fascinating about truly successful people? They don't just use fewer words, they ask better questions. They understand that good questions lead to good answers, and good answers lead to good decisions, and good decisions lead to good results. I remember watching a negotiation between two businessmen years ago. One talked constantly, laying out his position, making arguments, trying to persuade. The other mostly asked questions, thoughtful, probing questions that revealed what was really important to the other person. Guess who got the better deal? The questioner, of course, because while the talker was focused on his own thoughts, the questioner was gathering information that gave him an advantage. Focus doesn't just help you talk less, it helps you listen more. And listening is where the real power lies in communication. When you truly listen, not just wait for your turn to speak, but really listen with the intent to understand, you gain insights that others miss. I've noticed something about the truly wealthy people I've met over the years. They listen more than they talk. They observe more than they demonstrate. They focus on understanding before being understood, and that gives them an incredible edge. Let me tell you a personal story. Years ago, I was at a dinner with several highly successful entrepreneurs. There was one man there who everyone seemed to respect enormously. He wasn't the wealthiest person at the table, but everyone listened when he spoke. I noticed that he said very little through most of the meal. He just listened, nodded, occasionally asked a clarifying question. Then someone asked him directly for his opinion on a business matter. He paused, thought for a moment, and gave a response so insightful that it shifted the entire conversation. Afterward, I asked him about his approach. He said something I'll never forget. I try to make sure that my input is always greater than my output. I take in more information than I give out opinions. That way, when I do speak, I have something valuable to say. That's the essence of what I'm talking about today. Focus allows you to take in more than you put out, and that makes everything you put out more valuable. But how do you develop this kind of focus in a world that's constantly trying to distract you? Let me share 3 practical ways to improve your focus starting today. First, practice daily silence. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. They fill every moment with noise. Music, television, conversation, social media. But silence is where focus grows. Try spending at least 30 minutes each day in complete silence. No phone, no TV, no conversation, just you and your thoughts. It will feel uncomfortable at first, but soon you'll find that your ability to focus improves dramatically. Second, develop the habit of single tasking. We've been sold this myth that multitasking is productive. It's not. Studies show that multitasking reduces your productivity by as much as 40. When you're in a conversation, be fully in that conversation. When you're working on a project, work only on that project. When you're with your family, be fully present with your family. This kind of focused attention not only makes you more effective, it also makes your life richer and more meaningful. Third, practice intentional communication. Before any important conversation, take a few minutes to get clear on what you want to accomplish. What's the one thing you need the other person to understand? What's the one question you need answered? What's the one outcome you're seeking? This kind of preparation allows you to stay focused during the conversation and avoid getting sidetracked. These 3 practices, daily silence, single tasking, and intentional communication, will dramatically improve your ability to focus. And as your focus improves, you'll find that you need fewer words to make your point. Now let's talk about one of the biggest challenges to focus in the modern world: distractions. We live in the most distracted time in human history. The average person now checks their phone 96 times a day. That's once every 10 minutes. We're bombarded with notifications, advertisements, and the constant noise of social media. Is it any wonder that our ability to focus has suffered? But here's the thing about distractions. They're not just happening to you. You're choosing them. Every time you interrupt a task to check your phone, every time you allow a notification to pull you away from a conversation, you're making a choice. You're saying, this distraction is more important than my focus. Successful people make different choices. They control their environment to protect their focus. They turn off notifications. They set boundaries around their time. They create spaces where deep work can happen without interruption. I have a friend who's built several successful companies. He has a simple rule: no phones at meetings. When his team gets together, everyone's phones go into a basket at the door. He told me the few times we've had emergency calls, people stepped out to take them. But 99 of those notifications could wait, and our meetings became twice as productive and half as long. That's the power of eliminating distractions. You get more done in less time, and you communicate more effectively with fewer words. Think about the last really important conversation you had. Were you fully present, or was your attention divided between the person in front of you and the device in your pocket? When you're not fully present, you miss subtle cues. You fail to hear what's not being said, and you end up talking more, because focus allows you to make every word count. When you're fully present and fully focused, you don't need to repeat yourself. You don't need to fill the air with nervous chatter. You can say exactly what you mean, clearly and concisely, and then stop talking. There's tremendous power in the pause. Most people are uncomfortable with silence in a conversation, so they rush to fill it. But when you're confident and focused, you can state your point clearly and then remain silent, giving the other person space to respond. That silence often accomplishes more than additional words ever could. I remember watching a master salesman once. He presented his offer clearly and concisely, and then he did something unusual. He stopped talking. He just sat there, comfortable in the silence, waiting for the prospect to respond. Most salespeople would have kept talking, adding more features, more benefits, more reasons to buy. And in doing so, would have talked themselves right out of the sale. But this man understood the power of focus, the power of silence, the power of letting his words land before adding more. Now, let's talk about how focus impacts your goal setting. Most people's goals are scattered and unclear. They want a little bit of everything, which usually results in getting a lot of nothing. Successful people focus their goals. They identify the few things that will make the biggest difference, and they pursue those things with singular focus. I often ask people in my seminars to write down their goals. Most people write down 10, 15, even 20 goals. Then I ask them a simple question. If you could only accomplish one of these goals in the next year, which one would have the greatest positive impact on your life? That question forces them to focus. And once they identify that one goal, I encourage them to direct most of their energy toward it. The same principle applies to your communication about your goals. When you talk about your goals to others, do you ramble on about all the things you might like to accomplish someday? Or do you clearly and concisely state the few goals that matter most to you right now? I've noticed that the more clearly focused a person's goals are, the more clearly they can communicate those goals to others. And the more clearly they communicate their goals, the more likely they are to receive the help and support they need to achieve them. There's a direct relationship between clarity of purpose and economy of words. When you're crystal clear about what you want, you don't need many words to express it. When you're confused or uncertain, you use more words to try to figure it out as you go. This brings me to another crucial aspect of focus. Clarity. Focus and clarity go hand in hand. The more focused you are, the clearer you become. And the clearer you are, the more effectively you can communicate. I've mentored many entrepreneurs over the years, and one of the most common problems I see is lack of clarity. They have a general idea of what they want to accomplish, but it's fuzzy around the edges. And that fuzziness shows up in their communication. They use vague language, technical jargon, and complicated explanations that leave people confused. But when you take the time to get crystal clear about your message, when you can express it in simple, straightforward language that anyone can understand, you achieve a level of communication that few people ever reach. Albert Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. That's profound wisdom. The ability to explain complex ideas in simple terms doesn't come from dumbing things down. It comes from a deep understanding that can only be achieved through focus. Think about the great communicators you admire. They don't use big words to impress. They use the right words to connect. They don't overwhelm you with information. They give you just what you need to understand. They focus their message to maximize its impact. You can develop this same skill. Start by asking yourself before any important communicants, what's the one thing I want the other person to remember from this conversation? Get clear on that one thing and then build your communication around it. Eliminate anything that doesn't support that core message. You'll be amazed at how much more effective your communication becomes. Now, let me talk about something that many people miss. The compound effect of daily focus. Small improvements in your focus applied consistently over time lead to massive results. If you could reduce the unnecessary words in your communication by just 10 each day, how much more effective would you be after a month, after a year? After 5 years, the improvements would be exponential. The same is true for the quality of your focus. If you could increase your ability to concentrate by just one each day, how much sharper would your mind be after a year of such improvement? This is the power of the compound effect. Small, seemingly insignificant changes that, when applied consistently over time, create remarkable results. And nowhere is this more true than in the development of focus. I've watched people transform their lives through this principle. They started by making small changes, turning off notifications for an hour each day, practicing 10 minutes of mindfulness, eliminating one unnecessary meeting from their calendar. These changes seemed minor at first, but as they built upon them day after day, week after week, their capacity for focus grew dramatically. And as their focus grew, their need for excessive words diminished. There's a wonderful saying, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. That's how the compound effect works. You don't see the results immediately, but if you trust the process and stay consistent, one day you'll look up and be amazed at how far you've come. So many people today are looking for the quick fix, the overnight success, the instant transformation. But real, lasting change doesn't work that way. It happens gradually through small improvements applied consistently over time. And it starts with developing your capacity to focus. Think about the quality of your attention like the quality of your diet. Just as you are what you eat, you become what you focus on. Focus on problems, and you become problem-oriented. Focus on solutions, and you become solution-oriented. Focus on what's wrong with others, and you become critical. Focus on what's valuable in others, and you become appreciative. Your focus determines your reality, and your words reveal your focus. Listen to what someone talks about most, and you'll quickly discover what they focus on most. Some people constantly talk about problems, difficulties, and what can't be done. Others talk about opportunities, possibilities, and what can be done. The difference isn't in their circumstances, it's in their focus. This brings me to a crucial truth. The quality of your life is directly related to the quality of your focus And the quality of your focus is directly related to the quality of your questions. The questions you ask yourself determine what you focus on. Ask, why does this always happen to me? And your mind will find reasons why you're a victim. Ask, what can I learn from this? And your mind will find valuable lessons. Ask, how can I use this to grow stronger? And your mind will find ways to turn setbacks into stepping stones. The same is true in your conversations with others. The questions you ask determine the direction of the conversation and the quality of information you receive. Most people ask weak questions that lead to weak answers. How are you? Fine. How's work? Busy? These questions require no focus and provide no value. But what if you ask more focused questions? What's the most interesting project you're working on right now? What challenge are you most excited about overcoming? What have you learned recently that changed your perspective? These questions require focus, both from you and from the person you're asking. And they lead to much more meaningful conversations. This is why focused people tend to be great conversationalists, even though they often talk less than others. They ask better questions. They listen more intently. They respond more thoughtfully. And as a result, their conversations have depth and substance that most people never experience. I want to challenge you to become more intentional about the questions you ask, both of yourself and of others. Before your next important conversation, take a few minutes to think about what you really want to know. What would be most valuable to understand? What would lead to the most meaningful exchange? Then focus your questions accordingly. You'll be amazed at how this simple practice transforms your conversations. People will find talking with you more engaging, more thought-provoking, and more valuable. Not because you said more, but because you focused more. And this brings us full circle to where we start. The more you focus, the less you need to talk. When you're truly focused on your goals, on your message, on the person in front of you, your words have more impact. You don't need to repeat yourself. You don't need to ramble. You don't need to fill the silence. You can say what matters most, clearly and concisely, and trust that it's enough. I want to leave you with this thought. Your words have tremendous power. They can build up or tear down. They can inspire or discourage. They can clarify or confuse. Use them wisely. Focus them carefully. And never forget that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. The choice is yours. You can continue, as most people do, talking much and saying little. Or you can develop the rare and valuable ability to focus your attention and your words on what matters most. That choice will not only transform your communication, it will transform your life. Remember, it's a world full of noise. Focused communication cuts through. In a world of many words, focused words stand out. In a world of scattered attention, focused attention creates extraordinary results. Starting today, commit to developing your focus. Guard it as your most precious resource. Cultivate it through daily practice. Apply it to your goals, your work, and yes, your words. As you do, you'll find that you accomplish more by saying less. Your words will carry more weight. Your ideas will have more impact. And your life will take on a clarity and purpose that few people ever achieve. The power of focus is available to anyone willing to develop it. You know, some people ask me, how do I know if I'm focusing on the right things? That's a fair question. Here's what I tell them. Look at your results. Your results never lie. If you're getting the results you want in an area of your life, you're focusing on the right things in that area. If you're not getting the results you want, your focus needs to shift. I remember talking to a businessman who was working 80 hours a week but still struggling financially. He told me, I'm focused on my business all the time. I hardly see my family. I'm always working. Why am I not seeing better results? So I asked him, what exactly are you focusing on during those 80 hours? As we talked, it became clear. He was focusing on low-value activities. He was spending hours on tasks he could have delegated. He was reacting to every minor crisis instead of proactively working on growth strategies. His time was focused on his business, but his attention was scattered within that time. That's an important distinction. Focus isn't just about dedicating time to something. It's about directing your highest quality attention to your highest value activities during that time. Think about this. If you have a garden hose with 5 leaks in it, fixing one leak won't increase the water pressure much. You need to fix all 5 leaks to get the full pressure. Your focus works the same way. If your attention is leaking in 5 different directions, capturing one of those leaks won't dramatically improve your concentration. You need to systematically address all the ways your focus escapes. This takes discipline. Real discipline isn't about forcing yourself to do something you hate. It's about remembering what you want most, not what you want now. It's about keeping your eyes on the prize when distractions try to pull you away. I found that the most focused people have a remarkable ability to say no. They say no to good opportunities so they can say yes to great ones. They say no to distractions so they can say yes to progress. They say no to busy work so they can say yes to important work. Warren Buffett said something profound about this. He said the difference between successful people and very successful people is that very successful people say no to almost everything. That's the essence of focus, eliminating the unnecessary so the necessary can speak. Focus is the great separator between those who succeed and those who merely survive. When you sharpen your focus, your words gain power, your actions gain purpose, and your life gains direction. Remember, it's not what you say that matters most, it's what you accomplish with the focused silence between your words.